Hey, everybody. Thanks for listening to the SnoWest Show. We are starting our 4th year here, and we've got a lot of great content lined up for you in 2025. I'm your host, Ryan Harris. Real quick, before we get into this episode, the SnoWest Show is made possible thanks to Polaris Snowmobiles. And for a limited time, Polaris is offering up to $3,000 off or 0% APR for 36 months, plus a 2-year warranty on select models. Now, 0% financing is pretty rare to find these days, so I'd jump on that offer. And these offers run from January 1st through February 28th, so start shopping for your next sled now. Go see your local Polaris dealer or find your closest dealer at Polaris.com. Also located in Big Sky, Montana, only 5 minutes away from riding areas like Buck Ridge and Cara Basin, 320 Guest Ranch offers lodging and accommodations for your next snowmobiling adventure. Single cabins and large full cabins with kitchens are available. Check them out at 320ranch.com. Also sponsoring the SnoWest Show this year, Fly Racing. They're the #1 gear brand in Supercross and Motocross, and they are bringing that same product innovation to snowmobiling. Whether it's monosuits, helmets, boots, gloves, goggles, Fly Racing has you covered for your snowmobiling need head to toe. Check them out at flyracing.com or Fly Racing Snow on socials. And thank you to Deviant Inc. for supporting the show this year. Head on over to deviantinc.com and check out their custom wrap builder with their new interactive design tools that make designing and customizing wraps super easy. Their new colorizer tool randomizes color combinations until you land on the look that you love. Then you can try the design mixer tool to see all the Deviant Inc. designs in the colors that you've selected. Check all that out at deviantinc.com. Thank you for listening again, and now back to the show. Hey everybody, welcome to the SnoWest Show. I'm Ryan Harris. Thanks for listening. If you're on YouTube, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, please. It helps us out with being able to deliver these shows. We're going to try to run these shows, the SnoWest Show. We're going to have episodes going all through the summer. You guys are probably like, "What the hell?" No, we're not. might be a solo event, something.
Skype,
I don't know.
Can we Skype in?
Skype? What is it? 1982?
Well, I'm still from Horse and Buggy.
How's your MySpace account? You don't have followers?
We'll send you a fax.
I'm down to 5 followers on MySpace. I don't understand.
It must be with the algorithm, something like that.
And these two are 2 of them.
We got SnoWest test staff here. We're missing Rhett Clark, but I've got Bruce Kerbs here to my left, Broc, Genta, Justin Stevens. We're in here talking about the 850 NAs.
Love you, Rhett.
Rhett, where are you? Maybe we should call him.
Ask him how it was to ride the other day.
Hey, have you still got any of this gear left, Ryan? Look, I mean,
yeah, actually we do.
There you go.
The plug from Broc over there. Yeah, hit snowwest.com and check out our merch. We've got we're on kind of a limited supply, but there actually is a sale going on right now. You can get a deal on T-shirts. I think we're sold out of hoodies, but we've got hats, T-shirts, and sticker packs available still. So go to snowwest.com, check those out while you're there. If you want to subscribe to the magazine, we still do the magazine. A lot of great information there. That's coming up in my rant. I think that's in part 3.
Yeah, I actually love having a hard copy.
Yeah,
you do everything digital, but it is cool having a hard copy at my office.
That's come up in my rant. So that'll be in part 3, though. This is part 2. If you missed part 1, go to the YouTube channel, go to Spotify, go to Apple Podcasts, find part 1 where we talk about the weights of these three sleds. We're talking about the 2025 Polaris Khaos RMK 850. That's got a 155 track, 325 lug. With the base gauge, a 2025 Skidoo Summit X 850, 154, 3-inch track, base gauge, 2025 Arctic Cat M 858, 154. This is called the Alpha 1, right? The black one? Yeah, the big black cat, BBC.
Yep.
854, 154, 3-inch track, base gauge. And then in this episode, here's what we're throwing in the 9R. This is going to be our benchmark.
Didn't we rename the 9R?
Did we?
Monica.
Is that?
No.
That was the 850.
The 850 is Monica.
Oh, no, yeah. The 9R's got a big sister called Cardi B, and that we'll get into that in another episode. 2025 Polaris Khaos RMK 9R 155 325 7S display, Walker Evans piggyback shocks. So weight differences between the 3 850s and the 9R. I can tell you right now the 7S display adds
1.5 pounds?
No, it's more than that.
Is it more than that?
It's a little better. It's like 8 pounds.
Yeah.
I want to say about 8 pounds, give or take. Again, Idaho numbers. But yeah, so we're going to dive right in here. We're going to talk ride tests now. We've been riding this group of sleds since I want to say February 2024. Several different opportunities to be on these sleds together individually. We assembled this fleet specifically so that we can compare this group of snowmobiles together, similar track lengths. I'll tell you why the Polarises have the 325 track and the Cat and the Skidoo have the 3-inch track. It's because we went with the biggest track offering they have in a 155.
I like that.
So you could say, in fact, there have been comments where Cat guys are saying, yeah, but the Polaris has a 325. It should have the 275. Well, okay. Well, let's put the 26 on the Cat then also.
Yeah, it seems like a more reasonable comparison for sure. So.
Yeah. And so my thought is, hey, just let's get deep lug tracks. And, I prefer the 3-inch track on a Cat over the 2.6. I prefer the 325 track on a Polaris over the 275.
Does Polaris even make a 3-inch anymore?
No, the 325 replaces that old 3-inch.
Yeah. And these are the tracks that they work best for us in the mountains. Like this is the track we want to be using. So why not? Test?
Yeah, if you were to go buy a mountain sled in each one of these, that's what you'd get. I think for the most part. I mean, I think a few people. I have heard a few people that like the 275 track in the Polaris better, but I prefer the 325, and I think a lot of people do. So.
And it is a lighter track. So when we were talking weights in the last episode, the Polaris could have come in lighter with a 275 track, and then if you went apples to apples and you put a 2.6 track on a Cat, that's probably going to come in heavier.
Right.
So you could really skew these numbers, and we really could have gone out of our way and say, hey, look, man, the Polaris RMK is another 8 or 9 pounds lighter because it's got the 275 track, but that's not apples to apples. So 325 track there, but the question we get every time we post this stuff, and we post this to drive the discussion among snowmobile owners. So it's not just us. Like, we want to know we post this stuff a lot, and we try to drive you guys to get out there and talk, because we want to see what you guys who spend money walking to dealerships, put down your own money, hard-earned money on these sleds, what you think. More than what we just think. We're test riders, and we have a unique opportunity to ride snowmobiles that not everybody has access to at the same time for multiple days on snow, back to back.
No. Well, and I can guarantee you, these manufacturers, Polaris, Skidoo, and hopefully Cat in the future, they watch these podcasts, they're reading them comments, and they're taking that information back to their team and saying, all right, this is what the public wants. Like, you can't tell me they don't. You know what I mean? So I think the discussion's good for people to comment and add their 2 bits in, and I think it's great for the whole snowmobile industry. Yeah,
and hey, what's up, Pascal? I know you're listening.
Yes.
So we try to include that outside conversation just so that we're more aware of what's going on the consumer base, and see how it aligns with what we're coming up with in our test results, and then being able to address what people want to see. So we're going to talk about different categories in our ride tests, and then part 3 of this coming up here soon is going to be questions that we've each come up with for each other, and then questions that we've asked for on social media. Like, we asked you guys to say, hey, we're testing this group together. What do you want to know? What would you like to know? What would you what information do you want to get out of this? Let's jump into riding though. So when we start out on a ride, let's just take our baseline. Island Park, we have a facility up there that we test out of. And when we leave that facility and we head to the mountains, there's always, no matter where we go, whether we head east, west, north, there's always single track moguls for quite a ways. And I think, every one of you guys rides different areas. We all spread out and go different places: Star Valley, Alpine, Teton Valley, Utah, Colorado, a lot of Montana, a little bit of Washington. That seems to be consistent. Right. Like anybody in Canada, been up there a couple times. Most of the time when you're riding, mountain riding involves single track mogul, just destroyed trails getting into the access zones. And that is part of mountain riding. Yeah. Like you can say, well, I don't care about that. I want to know what it does when I'm up here doing what Dave's doing here in the background, like deep powder, jumping off cornices.
Right.
Yeah, but to get to that point, you're riding this crap. Like I guarantee it.
Yeah, non-groomed trails, deep snow just turns into deep moguls.
Mm-hmm. So start with you, Broc. What do you think in this group? And we're gonna, you can talk about the 3.850s. You can throw in the 9R. We had all 4 out together.
I took the. What's really random? I'm not going to be good. I'm not going to be good for this one because I rode the 850. I rode the 850 Khaos, actually on the moguls in and out. It just happened to be that way that I was on the 850 Khaos.
In and out?
Yes, in and out. So
how was it?
Yeah, weird.
It worked good. I don't mind riding. I don't mind riding the Polaris on the trails. It's like we've been talking. It's pretty stable. It's set. So I don't feel like I get bucked on that 850.
Does it do anything weird? And you've been on a cat.
Oh yeah.
At other times,
right.
on trails. You've been on the Skidoo other times on these type of trails. Does the Polaris do anything weird compared to the other two? Anything you don't like?
You know what? To me, the Polaris is actually more predictable on those bumps than the cat or the Skidoo. I know you can haul butt on the Skidoo, and it just works awesome for you. Going those moguls. But the Polaris is really predictable for me on the trail.
I think it's. I mean, it trails well. It goes down the trail well. It doesn't jump around too much, but you feel everything. I think that chassis just transfers it directly to you.
Right.
Like,
yeah, you feel
like.
everything.
Granted, it's not trying to jump off the trail or wander, but like especially when you compare it to the Skidoo, it's. I mean, I just felt like I rode. What did I ride out the 9R?
You rode the 9R out.
When
you rode the cat in.
Yeah,
I remember.
Yeah, I got screwed on that. I don't know what happened. Did you guys all know that's not the one to ride in?
Yep, we did.
Jeez. But yeah, I mean, even the 9R, anything on that Polaris platform, like I agree with you. Like I don't feel like I have to like herd it down the trail. It goes down the trail and trails well. But as far as like every bump, like I feel like it just transfers straight through. I don't know if that's just the rigidity of the.
It could be that front bumper weight. I mean, that front weight, it's set.
Yeah, it could be. I don't know.
Feeling it.
That's just my opinion. But
What do you think?
As far as which three or which one?
Well, just all three talking about moguls.
So
Single track goat trails.
I think I rode the Skidoo in. Did I ride the Skidoo in? Pretty sure I did. I would prefer the Skidoo over all three of them on a bumpy trail. It absorbs the bumps. I mean, you feel it's still them big moguls, but
it does seem to eat them up.
It absorbs it. Yeah,
it's different.
As far as the one I don't want to be on is that cat coming out or in.
Yeah,
that thing you can just feel everything, and it is kind of darty,
and it goes all over the place.
You got to be on your toes.
You're hurting it the whole way in.
Yeah. So my top one would be the Skidoo, honestly, and I felt that way for years that the Skidoo's got the better ride through the whoops and even the chatter bumps and stuff. So, and I'm sure people revalve and do all that stuff, but these are just bone stock. So,
but I agree. The Skidoo, and we're talking a Summit X here, not the Expert, not a free ride,
right.
Not an SP Adrenaline, the Summit X, and I like it in the deep moguls, like what you're saying. Like if you can get on a straight line and start blitzing and stay up on top of them,
yeah,
it's pretty good. It does have the older ski design, and it does have the T-motion rear suspension and the flex edge track. If you get off of that straight line, it'll dive pretty quick on you and get off line on that. The Polaris, in my opinion, bucks in the rear still. Like it's just always had that. RMKs just kick up in the rear, and it might have to do with the coilover setup that they run in their suspension. Yeah, it's lighter, but it's a different shock dampening dynamic versus torsion springs. I prefer it just because it's lighter, but I think there's so much room for valving improvement on that.
Yeah.
But like you guys have said, like it's a rigid chassis, and once you dial in and start blitzing, that thing will stay pretty level and pretty even. But man, you get a lot of feedback.
Yeah.
You've got to be Jet Lawrence. You got to be down and low, and you got to be ready to take some movement in your arms and knees.
Yeah.
And that one does pretty good. The Cat with that Alpha 1 rail.
Yeah.
Like in 2019 when that purple sled came out, like I said right off the bat, that thing is like riding a dirt bike with a flat rear tire.
Yeah.
On anything hardpack. And it's still that way. It's better on the Catalyst because the front end matches the rear end a little better.
Yeah.
But it's not great on this stuff.
No.
It's fine. I mean, these are all fine. We're breaking stuff down into nuance.
Yeah, none of them are fun through the bumps.
No,
especially at your age.
Yeah, That's got to factor that in too.
All right, let's dive into the next category. Is just going to be like technical riding, like drainages and trees and steep side hills and changing directions on slopes and everything. Hey, everybody, thanks for listening. If you're watching us on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button. I want to take a quick break here and share something with you. Polaris just announced that it is offering free snowmobile rides at more than 50 participating Polaris Adventures Outfitter locations across the country. Starting now throughout the season, riders can claim a free 1-hour ride at a participating Polaris Adventures location of their choice. All you have to do to claim this free ride is go to polaris.com/snow demos and request a code. That website also lists all of the locations. It's really easy to navigate, and it'll walk you right through it. It's super easy, a great way to experience the sport for free. And you can have more time if an hour isn't enough. So if you're listening and you want to check this out, or if you're a diehard sledder and want someone you know to have an opportunity to go ride snowmobile, this is a great opportunity. Again, go to polaris.com/snow demos, request a code, get your free 1-hour ride at participating Polaris adventure dealers of your choice, and go out and have fun. Try this sport out. It's the best thing on snow. All right, back to the show. Broc, take it away from there again.
We could talk about this for a long time. I mean, this is a topic that, this is why we ride technical riding. Which one do I like the best? Or
run through all three of them.
You know what?
And analyze them.
The catalyst. I mean, that's so easy to initiate now. I mean, it comes around so fast. I personally didn't really like the T-motion on the Summit X that we took up. You could feel that weight. You could feel that movement. So you didn't feel as confident. There was too much movement in that rear end. And then the Khaos, that I love that chassis in the mountains. It's very, very predictable. So let me think about which one is my favorite. It's either going to be the Cat or the 9R. Wait, we're not supposed to talk about the 9R. It's either
850.
No. You can throw
the chassis.
Throw the 9R in.
So I'm going. If I'm going 850s, 858s, I'm going the 858. Throw the 9R in there. There's a real good chance I'm going with that 9R with that little extra power, that 325 track. I don't feel that front weight on the Khaos chassis on that 9R. It just, man, it's smooth. It's easy.
What do you think, Justin?
Yeah, that's. I think when we were up there, it was kind of funny. I'd probably put it in that same order, then because we had the 9R with us, I was thinking 9R Catalyst, 850, and then the Summit. Yeah. And I mean, it's which is funny, but then if you pull the 9R out of that, we're just talking about NA sleds and not bumping up to that 9R, kind of that unique power add. I think the Catalyst probably was the funnest sled that I rode the other day, despite...
We got this on video, right? Like, you're recording, because for him to, an Arctic Cat...
it was impressive. I got to ride it in on the trail, and there was nothing impressive about that. So, but once we finally broke out and got riding, I mean, it was fun. Like you grab a handful, it maneuvered quick. Just even foot weights, made a lot of difference in the direction you were going. So... as far as technical riding, I must say that I probably still would go back into the Polaris chassis. I love that chassis. Whenever it gets super tight trees, like kind of gnarly lines and stuff like that, I really haven't spent hardly any time on the Cat. That's probably the first time I've ever been on that Catalyst with the 858, especially. We rode the 600, but and I'm sure some of that's my comfort level with the Polaris and the way it handles. But I mean, I just feel like I can put that anywhere I want. High speed, low speed, doesn't really matter. So technical riding, I probably still would go to that 850. But yeah, I was really impressed with the Catalyst. That was a lot of fun. And even in those side hill lines and tight technical stuff, I didn't feel like I was losing at all. Just maybe a little different reaction in how the rear end kind of washes out a little bit more. I don't know if that's that Alpha 1, maybe a little looser, where the Polaris just usually stays pretty planted. But yeah.
You mentioned on the mountain the other day, and then you just mentioned it here again, like foot placement. Like talk about that a little bit between the three chassis.
The Khaos, the Polaris seems it seems a lot more natural to me. Like I don't feel like I have to think to get forward. I did feel like I had to get a little bit more forward with the Catalyst to keep from, and of course I'm learning like the throttle control, how that rear end reacts when you get in and out of the throttle. But I found myself trying to pull myself forward a little bit on the Catalyst and my foot placement so that I could keep that rear end from washing out and try and keep it planted. The Skidoo is kind of the same thing. I mean, that one I just don't ever feel like I can get far enough forward to keep it from wanting to do things that I'm not comfortable with. So
we need a GoPro.
Yeah, I don't know. We hit a lot of logs too, so there's still log traps out there. So
I didn't see any. Did you?
I didn't see any. No.
I mean, the Skidoo,
You've seen 'em.
The Skidoo handlebar hurt a little bit more when it hit my bladder than the 9R. You know, although the 9R felt like
hit the handlebar in the 9R, did you?
No, my arm.
You Superman that.
Yeah, I did catch my arm on the way by that
some
one.
Flex handlebars for you.
Yeah,
bend.
probably need something. Something to catch me as I'm doing front flips.
You know, I was really impressed with the power and the power conversion on that catalyst though. Like it hooked up. You pushed on the throttle and it was all there.
It's quick, yeah.
I was throttle response, clutching was good. Still got the old cat rattle like that.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it felt really good. The catalyst.
What do you think, Spud King?
Spud King? Is that what you said? New one. I have to make that my new password. Kind of the same. I mean, I'm like you're more comfortable on the Polaris. I'm more comfortable on the cat, right? Yeah. So when I finally got back on the cat, I don't know. I just felt at home.
It's like coming home.
Yeah. So, but that Alpha 1 works better with the catalyst versus the Ascender chassis. It does wash out a little bit, but not near like it used to. So that.
Yeah, not bad. Like I remember dragging the rear end of the cats all the time. Like I'd be hammered throttle, and just feeling like the rear end of the sled's way down below me. And you could ride that way. You just had to think through it. But it's definitely not like that, and it definitely doesn't wash out as bad as the Skidoo.
Right, with the T-motion.
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
So I don't know. That catalyst is a fun chassis. It's light. It's easy to throw around. Tight trees. I don't know if it's the track. I feel like it stays up on top of the snow also.
Yeah.
Really good in the trees. So you don't have to be going fast through the trees. You know what I mean? You can kind of let off and make your corner. The Polaris does have a better, I think it holds the side hill better still. And I don't know if that's the twin rail versus the alpha rail helping that out, or if it's just the chassis has always been that rigid chassis. Once you get on its side, it stays. So that is nice, really, through technical stuff. The Skidoo, I really feel, you talk about feet placement, I feel like that's the one you can't override it. And if you do, you're screwed, right?
Yeah.
And foot placement, I caught myself foot up, foot back, one foot or forward, you know what I mean?
Kind of guessing.
Always moving. Mm-hmm. And once you can kind of figure that out, I felt like that T-motion was starting to get more fun to ride. So maybe after 2 or 3 days, you'd enjoy the T-motion. But definitely foot placement on the Skidoo is huge.
Yeah.
And riding neutral. I felt like you get onto one side and it makes the sled worse.
And we've talked about ski stand front end stability and all that. And I'll point out here that we're running each of these sleds just in the center position. So you're 36 on a cat, 36 on a Polaris, 34 on a Skidoo. I think that plays into it
for sure. What's your thoughts?
I think on the Skidoo, this is where I mentioned in the first show. If we tested an expert versus the Summit X, we would come out with different results. We'd have a heavier sled on weights, and we'd have a little more predictable sled. I think something that we would probably all like better if it was an expert in this category, but it'd be a heavier sled. And we went after the lightest in each category. I think the Skidoo, the Summit X 850 NA, we're talking 154 3-inch. It's a fun sled, and it's a heavier mountain sled with a few features to make it ride lighter initially, and it's pretty easy to initiate a lean. It's harder to keep it on a planted edge. Right. And it's not quite as predictable to me. Like, it can be all over the place. And granted, if I do a couple rides on that sled and then go back, I'll have the muscle memory dialed for that sled. I mean, that's one thing that we do as test riders. We bounce around on a lot of machines, and when you spend more time on one, you get the back of your head just gets more used to doing what that sled gives you feedback for. Yeah. And then when you jump around, this is why everybody who owns a sled and then jumps on their buddy's sled that's a different brand, why that just doesn't ever work, because
they hate it initially.
Yeah, well, you got to give it a couple days. You got to give your body time to adapt, because it's not just what you're feeling, it's what you have to learn to ride that sled to what that sled is designed to do, not just you hopping on it and, oh, this is great, this isn't great.
But let's say that you rode the Skidoo for a couple of days and got used to it. Which one would feel more planted? Would it still feel as planted as the Polaris and the Catalyst?
Well, when you my theory,
different riding style.
My theory is when you get used to the Skidoo, you're in a different rider position. You're a little bit lower, and you tend to stay more neutral. So like on a Polaris, to initiate a turn, a lot of times you're hopping over the seat and doing a little more throwing around.
True. Yeah.
On a Skidoo, you can tend to stay planted. Now that's just more general riding though. When you get into tight technical stuff, I think the Summit X is honestly the least responsive to counter steering. Like that's the technique, right? That's the technique that's taught is counter steer instead of pull. Like let the snowmobile lean in for you rather than you try to roll that weight every time you're trying to turn. That's what Rasmussen teaches. The counter steer on a Skidoo just kind of tips it, and then it just kind of wants to go all over the place because you have a narrow front end, so that's going to tip. You have a flex edge track, that's going to tip, but then it's kind of going to sit back up, and then it's heavier, so sometimes it'll want to roll down away from you.
Yeah.
So it's got a different feel. The Summit X has a different feel. If you're not familiar with the Skidoo lineup, the Summit X versus the Summit Expert, very different machines. Yeah. Very different rides. Yeah, they look the same, but very different ride packages. And the Summit X is probably more suited to just going out and having fun, open terrain, deep snow, playing around.
Yeah.
It's a mountain sled. It's a phenomenal mountain sled.
And you're saying you have to counter steer that more than you would think the Expert, even though we didn't take the Expert this time, but
in certain terrain. And now we're all going back. We all have recency bias here. We're all going back to the last time we rode, all of them together, last week. And the snow conditions there, you had a decent base with, what would you say, 18 inches, 24 inches of fresh on top.
Yeah.
Yeah, in places.
So pretty ideal snow, but it's not like bomber deep.
Right.
This isn't like BC blower snow that we're talking about in this scenario. And that's where the Summit X would shine. Like if you had the deeper the snow is, the more you're rolling that sled, the less you're lifting that sled.
Yeah.
So from there, if I were to go to the Polaris is stays where it's been, very predictable. It's a little more effort to initiate into a side hill and onto its edge, but once it's there, it's more predictable by far. Like I know it's going to stay there. I know I can drive and steer and control and change lines and pick lines and pick lines down to an inch.
Yeah, that's what I always think of, looking at a steep side hill riddled with trees, and then I'm looking across that, and you're picking your lines, your A gap, B gap, whatever you want to call it, and I just, the confidence that I have to be able to drop down 6 feet and go back up 3 and whatever I want to do, I just feel like I can, like you say, hit it within an inch exactly where I want to go, which gives me a lot of confidence as a rider.
Yeah, but, so you can ride faster because you can stay on your line.
Yeah.
And you're not just kind of reacting on the Summit X in this scenario. I feel like I'm spending more time reacting to what it's opposing.
Which was crazy because I think we spent a lot of time on the Summit Expert last year, and so I guess as soon as I got on the Summit, I was pretty surprised. Like I really expected it to. I don't know why. I guess I just expected it to be a little bit more like what I'd experienced last year on the Summit Expert, and it just wasn't. Like it was pretty miserable, I have to admit. Like I couldn't make it go anywhere I wanted to go. I just felt like it was in control, and you'd come down and like pick a line and think I want to shoot through there, and you'd blow through it. And again, I haven't spent a ton of time on that Summit X package, so I guess I can't really say that that's fair because I'm sure after some time on the sled, but it was. I didn't enjoy riding it at all.
We do spend more time on the Expert.
Skidoos.
We do spend more time on the Expert because that's, I think, that the sled in their lineup that we prefer.
Right.
So our turbos are Experts.
Right.
But yeah, I'd agree with you. We were crossing in some zones. We were crossing old tracks, and the X has the old ski.
Yeah.
And the new ski that's on the Expert is designed to reduce feedback when you cross that stuff. Yeah. And man, when you cross that stuff on the X. You get a lot of feedback.
Yeah, and I don't love the T-motion, so I feel like I think that's where things fall apart for me. I'm used to putting a little more effort into that that initiation and stuff, and maybe if I learned to back off that and some throttle control, but you go to hammer that and roll the sled over and put a lot of pressure on it. It just wants to react totally different, and I just don't feel very stable. So I don't love the T-motion.
And there's an element to that of steering, like the lay down steering versus the vertical steering.
Yeah.
Like there's times when the lay down steering is better on the Skidoo, and then there's times where it's like this is causing the problem on the Skidoo. If I go to the Cat, the Cat is more so like the Polaris. Easy, very easy, probably easiest of the three to get onto its side. I'm not going to say edge because it doesn't necessarily have an edge. It's easier to get onto its side. The Polaris has a defined edge.
Yeah.
Like it's got a fulcrum. It's got a tipping point. And I think that's what the definition of an edge is, right?
Right.
So it's got a point where you get past this point and it's going to fall into the mountain and it's going to stay there. And then you don't have a lot of rider effort to get it to stay there. The Cat is super easy just to get it to roll off of center. And it'll roll all the way over until you're just laying on the snow on your shoulder going, what the hell happened?
Yeah.
And so it's more of a finesse sled. Like you've got to be very balanced and very minute inputs. And that's why I was asking you about foot position.
Right.
The Cat, man, when we rode with Dave McClure and Taylor Peck and Shea Smith, one of the Cat engineers, on our second test, after you guys missed that one, when we went up there, man, I was gelled with that sled. That thing I was flowing and everything. It takes a little time to get used to that Alpha 1. There's some give and take to it. Right. There's a lot of things you give up versus a twin rail, and there's a lot of advantages that it has, especially in deep snow. But it's got a very broad, it's got a very narrow sweet spot. I would say it's got a very narrow tipping point. Like I was out of control on that. If you come off a Skidoo or a Polaris, you're going to be out of control. On a Cat right off the bat. It's going to take you a minute to get used to it. Yeah. And you want to stay more neutral, and you want to keep your feet. Man, your feet have a lot of input control.
Yeah,
on the Cat.
I noticed that even just when we were ripping across doing those side hills and then up through the hill. I mean, you could change direction so easy just by putting a little weight on left right foot. So in a neutral position, it's pretty fun.
Yep.
So technical riding, I'd be happy on a Cat. Yeah. I would probably still take a Polaris for that category. The Summit X, I'm not thrilled with in technical riding. The Expert, I think I would be, but again, these are the ones we're testing,
right?
And we can make these caveats and everything. We could throw in the Skidoo. If we're throwing in the Skidoo Expert, we could throw in the Polaris Pro. That's going to be a better technical sled because it's going to keep the nose down a little more planted and drive better. The Cat, you could go to the Alpha 1, the green sled with the better shocks and get benefits.
You don't want to do that.
No, then we don't have BBC, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Next category, play riding. So now we're talking about you break into these big zones that have trees scattered, a lot more open drifts, and just wide open, a little more wide open country, not flat, not meadows.
Yeah. I think for the snow conditions we had the other day, the Catalyst probably wins that one. So that was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Just easy to maneuver around. You can change directions quick, and it's deep enough that you could just kind of float through it. And that might be one of the areas where, the Polaris is a lot of fun in those areas too, but it's definitely not you always kind of say that, the Skidoo, when you got 2 or 3 feet of fresh powder, is really fun because you can float down through it. The Polaris seems to kind of push through those corners sometimes a little bit when you're in deep. So, but the Catalyst seemed like a good kind of in between. Like it'd still go where you want it to go, but super fun, playful on the hill.
Yeah, and maybe that has something to do with the track too. You think the lug pattern and stuff, helps these sleds out in certain conditions too. For snow.
Yeah,
I agree with you on the play riding. The Cat's just fun. That Catalyst chassis is amazing. But the Skidoo out in that open was kind of fun too because you're not worried about hitting a tree or shooting through a line. You know
I
hit
a tree.
Well, so did you.
He hit a tree. You hit a tree. I hit a tree. We all hit trees.
We all hit trees.
It's like
Oprah
right
here.
into that tree.
But you feel a little more comfortable out in the open on that Skidoo, right? So you can actually toy with your foot placement. All right, what's it going to do if I do this, or what's it going to do if I do that? So playful, probably the Skidoo a close second on that one, and then yeah, the players probably last on the playful side of stuff. So
yeah, same playful. That cat it felt so light in that type of terrain. And like Ryan said, it was pretty easy to become one with that chassis and stuff like that.
Yeah,
and I will say, I mean, I know it's an 858 versus an 850, but there's a pretty significant power difference, I think, or at least a feel. And I don't know if it's just maybe the way the track hooks up, some other things, but Arctic Cat has done an impressive job of producing that sled.
Hey, that's a different topic. You're off topic.
Sorry.
Engine power.
Oh, sorry.
Get you back in line.
Yeah, I'm always ahead. So
come on.
Maybe we should have led with that because it goes into everything that you do.
True. Even the technical.
Yeah. The power makes the sled feel lighter, and that's part of the element that makes that cat feel really good. Is it's got power.
Yeah.
It does handle really well. It's still just it's an agile sled, but it's not as predictable as a Polaris.
Right.
Yeah.
You get down into these big play areas and it's a blast. But every now and then it'll just do something where the track is conforming to the snow shape.
True.
And you're expecting it to go like this, and it goes like this.
Well, that's what I was telling you with the Polaris. We turned into that one zone, and you're kind of on a downhill, and we turned. You get it up on edge and just grab a handful, and that sled wants to straighten out and head straight across the hill. Where the other two, as soon as you grab, and I'm talking like a full throttle, not just something in between, And the other one seems like they'll want to loop out or turn on you So it's kind of interesting.
It is, yeah. And then I was paying real close attention to a downhill off camber.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not just going straight down the hill, you're side hilling, but you're doing it at a downhill angle.
Yeah.
And man, they're all a pain in the ass right there. Like none of them are easy to do that on. They all you either have to be on edge and then drive and lose elevation as you're driving on edge, or you just kind of have to like spray. What do they call it with the gun? Like spray and pray, whatever. I don't know. You just squeeze a handful of throttle and just keep the track chewing to create that line in the snow for you.
Yeah.
And like drift it, keep the track churning up the snow underneath you and then kind of going down like that. But if you lose edge, if you lose that side hill hold, the Skidoo definitely wants to dive and roll downhill. So does the Cat though. Because once you lose edge on the Cat on a downhill off camber, the track doesn't hold you in place. Like the track in the Alpha 1 allows that sled, the gravity, just to roll it continually downhill. And I've always thought that the Polaris is a hard one on downhill off camber too, because it's a wider stance than like a Skidoo, and it's got a little. I guess I just put that together. Like it is on our weights, it is heavier on the front end. And you feel that. You feel a little more weight out there on the control. So none of them are great, but they all have a little different characteristic on that.
Yeah.
I did notice that on the Cat, we had a lap. We went out there and we created a course, and it involved side hilling, uphill, downhill, off camber, transitions, and everything.
Right.
And there was a spot on the first course that we did where the Cat was a downhill off camber. And I was like, okay, well, I can play around on this thing while going downhill. On the other two sleds, no, it was just like there was no playful about it. It was just like get from point A to point B and get off this off camber.
Yeah.
So the Cat definitely had an advantage in that scenario.
That's what I was going to ask you. What sled feels better if you are downhill before you get to the bottom? The confidence in turning and going back uphill. Does that make sense?
Man, for me, if I do it on the Cat, I've got to spend a lot of time on the Cat to where I don't spin out on it. I'll go too far.
Yeah. On
a Polaris, I can do it. On a Skidoo, I can do it. The Polaris is easier. The Cat is easy, but it's also easy to overshoot.
Yeah. Yeah. What's easier to initiate into the hill again as you're coming down?
If you've lost your edge and both skis are on the snow.
Yep, and you're heading straight down, but you don't want to hit the bottom because there's a river or something. You know what I mean?
I think that's where the lay down steering on the Skidoo makes it more difficult.
Yeah.
In that situation, on an downhill off camber, the lay down steering makes recovering harder.
Because you got to counter steer so hard. You think?
I don't know what it is, but it's and again, it's not like tough. I can't do it.
Right.
It's just we're being nitpicky. We're breaking this into nuance and trying to describe a feeling that not everybody gets to feel because they're only on one brand. The Polaris is pretty predictable. Like I just know that, and I spend the same amount of time on all of these. I just know that A plus B, meaning this input plus this input equals this result every time.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And
I think if you were to look at the balance point as maybe a graph, kind of a width, I definitely think the Polaris has a wider balance point, like you were talking about earlier, where it's not that you can't do the same maneuvers on a cat or a Skidoo, but maybe it takes a little bit more finesse and maybe just a little bit more knowing where that balance point is. Like you said, you can initiate the cat into a downhill turn pretty easy and kind of as you're washing down, but you do have to be a little careful in how you grab a handful of throttle. If you grab too much, that rear end comes around quick and wants to stand the sled up. Versus, the Polaris, I think you can grab a handful and it wants to kind of get back into that kind of technical line and hold like it does so well, So it's and again, those aren't. I don't know if those are even fair to say. Well, this one's better than that one. It's just different. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you spent the whole season on a cat, that maneuver is probably really easy for you.
Yeah.
And it's not. You don't even second guess it because you're comfortable with the amount of throttle that you got to give, how much lean your body position. I mean, the Skidoo's probably that one for me. I think it is partly the lay down steering. My body position on a downhill like that on the Skidoo is pretty uncomfortable. Like I'm so far forward. Again, if you got used to that, I guess it wouldn't bother you. But it's so weird. But and even compared to both the Polaris and the Cat. So
and see, the expert doesn't do that though. When you get an expert into an off-camber downhill, it stays on track much better.
Yeah,
and you can pick your line.
Yeah, and when you get back into the throttle, it reacts significantly different.
Yeah, so there's definitely a difference there that's worth pointing out. Handling and feel, we're kind of in that same category. Anything different just in the handling and feel?
I think we've kind of covered that, haven't we? I mean, between the trails, between the technical riding, we've hit on that pretty hard.
I think the Cat, like the Cat is a great handling sled. You just got to be ready for it to do a weird thing every now and then. The Polaris is an okay handling sled. It might take a little more muscle and fight in some categories, but once it's on edge where it's designed to be, it's dialed. The Skidoo handles great as long as you've got some breathing room. Mm-hmm. Once you're trying to be super precise with it, it also kind of like the Cat has its own little tendency to follow bumps in the snow and terrain and old tracks and hard snow and do different things. After that, we have chassis balance. And this is where we kind of reference from show 1 where we can talk about sled weight.
Yeah. And
where that weight's just distributed.
Yeah. What's interesting about the chassis balance is, especially when you go back to our weights, I wouldn't usually say this, but I think the Polaris felt the heaviest on the front end. I don't know. Just as far as balance feels like it used to be the Cat. That one just hammered me. I felt like I'm always right on the skis and just everything's pulling against me to drop that front end. The new chassis and everything that they've done has definitely made a difference there. So, but I'd say of the three, that one feels like I've got the most weight forward, which I don't know that it really affects the riding, but if you're talking about actual feel, I mean the Skidoo and the Catalyst both feel much lighter on the front end,
more balanced. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with that one.
Yeah, the weight distribution. I think you're onto something there. Maybe it is just the way the motor sits a little canted forward. The cylinders lean forward a little bit on a Polaris.
Yeah.
On a Skidoo, they're vertical. On the Cat, they lay down like right against the drive shaft.
Yeah. With
that lay down engine. And man, you nailed it on the head. If the Catalyst came out under a different brand, like Ducati. Like Ducati came out with this Catalyst M858.
Maybe they'll buy
and entered the thing. We would be like, holy crap, this is a revolutionary design,
right?
Which it is.
Yeah.
You just got this Arctic Cat history lingering in there. And it it's got to come up. Like Arctic Cat stopping production in 2025 sucks because this sled is
works.
a rocket.
Yeah, can you imagine taking this sled and just making it that much better?
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of there's things that need improved.
Of
course, right?
There's things need improved, but not a lot of improvement. We're riding these out of the box.
What a great starting point. Sure.
This is probably one of the best balanced sleds that we've been on this year.
Or ever.
It really is. Or ever. Right.
I mean, there's things that happen. There's CEOs before Textron that just bankrupted Arctic Cat, took cash out of Arctic Cat's pockets and caused problems, and then Textron bought it and made all these big promises and didn't follow through on anything. A lot of things went downhill for Arctic Cat. If they could have come out with this Catalyst platform
3 years ago,
4 or 5 years ago. I mean, the A50 has been out since 2019. It's 2025. They're a little behind the game. If they could have come out with this platform a while ago, there wouldn't be a problem in Arctic Cat.
Yeah.
Because they would be selling a ton of these. Market share would be a totally different pie diagram.
Well, they'd still be owned by a giant corporate entity, but
yeah,
whoever wants to buy them, I'll
and that's
donate
always
the
going to
ground.
be a problem.
You can join our
Arctic Cat.
You can join our GoFundMe. We're going to put in an offer. We've got everybody in Idaho Falls.
We're up to about what, $1,800.
That's just your money, isn't it?
I only got 10 in there, so
we're about halfway to our goal. But yeah, we've got job assignments for everybody. Steven, Tony, Dave.
That's right.
We're dialed. We're going to be running this thing soon.
Let's move the factory to my house. I'll donate the ground.
Oh, there you go.
See,
there you go.
All those people listening. So no, it is a good chassis.
Factory. Yeah, we'll just put it in your shop.
Yeah, we'll just put it in the shop. That's all we need.
But it's just sad because the Alpha One, the Mountain Cat M858 is just so flipping good.
Yeah.
And it comes at a time where Arctic Cat is shutting down production. And it just sucks because this is a sled that could be a wave that they could ride for 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
And sell a lot of machines.
And there'd be a turbo on that in a matter of 2 years, I think. And the twin rail skid.
Well, the twin rail, like there's so much chirp and chatter out there about the twin rail. You've got the diehard Alpha One guys are like, well, what makes you think Arctic Cat would ever put a twin rail on it? Well, I hate to break it to you, there was going to be a twin rail offering in 2025.
Yeah.
They pulled the plug on it last minute. There was going to be a 2025 twin rail Alpha. I guess it wouldn't be an Alpha One. Twin rail M858. And I would love to have been testing that sled.
Yeah.
Because I think that would broaden the appeal to the masses.
You know what we ought to do is take my Cinder, take that skid out, put on this Alpha, and go ride.
Go for it. Would a bolt right in?
No. Big enough hammer, or what?
The hangers are different.
Big enough
hammer and a torch.
It's a totally different geometry.
All right, Farmer Kerbs.
But why don't you
way to be a Debbie Downer?
Work on that?
You watch. Come next Saturday. I'm going to have a twin rail Alpha.
I want to try it. I believe
there is some out there already, but
I believe the Alpha One is a phenomenal skid for a narrow category. You keep talking about like, man, the track just stays on top of the snow. Yeah, the Alpha One is great.
Yeah.
And in deep snow, but it's got such a narrow appeal. If you had a twin rail offering on this thing, and if you would have done it a couple years ago, I think you would have sold more sleds.
For sure. I agree.
It's going to be something that would bring in all the people that are looking through the window like, that's a cool looking sled. I wonder what that's like, but I don't know if I want to commit to that.
Yeah.
But if it were a twin rail, okay, I'll give it a shot.
Yeah.
And I think market share kind of speaks to that. What are we at? Engine power. Okay, Justin. Engine power.
I think the Catalyst beats both the Polaris 850 and the Summit. So,
does it have 9 horsepower?
No.
I agree with you. It's close, but
it's
the
really
9
close.
still gets it.
It's really close. But I mean, it's impressive. Mm-hmm. Like what they've done with the 858 is impressive. It's a super strong. I know the next one's Response. I mean, they've definitely got that dialed well. I mean, it engages quick.
Yeah.
I never once thought, boy, I wish I had a little bit more power, or boy, I wish that engaged a little quicker. It just seemed like it was dialed on every maneuver I made. So.
Yeah.
Did you look under the hood to see if he did anything at his house?
I don't trust him. I don't even want to ask.
I'm just saying, like it felt really good.
For all I know, that thing had a turbo on it. This guy.
The engine power felt
He was probably over at
spot on.
Nethercott's like for 2 nights before our test session. Like, hey, let's get this thing ripping.
That's right. Yep.
But it ran good. I agree with that. It's got better power than the Polaris 850 NA.
For sure.
More power than the Skidoo 850 NA. I would say that the Polaris 850 NA is at the bottom.
I agree.
Great sled, good response, not a lot of power comparatively, but all the power that you would need if you're just getting a sled. Skidoo's got a little more power, a little more mid-range, a little more pull.
Yep.
The 850 Polaris has good response. It just doesn't, it runs out. Like it just.
That's where I was like, where's the rest?
That's what that one always has been. It was that like you wanted like a quarter throttle more, just quarter throttle, which I think is why the 9R fills that.
Well, it could be due to that 325 track too with that 850 motor. You know, it's just that could just be robbing just a little bit of.
Yeah, and that's a good point. I'm sure it is a little
power.
bit.
You know, it feels because I've got a 275 on my 850, and it felt like I've got a little bit more. But I'm wondering if that 325 is robbing a little bit of power from that 850.
But that 325 also hooks up better, and so it moves the sled.
Moves
so when you grab a handful, but yeah, you're like, man, if I took a Dremel to the handlebar, I bet I could squeeze
just
a couple
push
more
it, just
horsepower
push it a little farther. Yeah. And I don't know why.
And then the Skidoo, good response, stronger mid range, good top end.
Skidoo, I feel like, has the best clutching, and they've had that on their turbos and everything. I just feel like their engineers have got
they've done
the motor, the clutch, the power to the track.
They spend a lot of time. You would be surprised on all of these companies, but Skidoo especially.
Yeah.
Being in Quebec and being where they're based, how much time they spend out here. And I'm not talking like 2 guys. I'm talking 50.
Yeah.
That entire engineering team comes out. They rent hangars. They go to Canada. They go to West Yellowstone. They spend a lot of time out on the snow. Yeah. And then they go back to the drawing board on engineering, and they figure out where can we squeeze out a little bit more efficiency, and then they come back and they test it.
Right.
Kudos to them. They spend a lot of time out in the snow. Their mountain engineering team are mountain riders. Same with Polaris. Same with Cat. You know, these guys know what they're doing. The Cat 858. It's a little more of a ramp up. It's not like a ripper. You know, it's not like a 2-stroke race bike, just like a rip. You know, it's got a little more of a ramp up, but it pulls strong. It's got a decent bottom end, good bottom end, great mid range, and it's got legs. For being a stroker, like this thing pulls hard on top end, and it just doesn't seem to run out of power.
Right.
So then the question is, okay, you throw the 9R in. We've mentioned that. Where do these rank to the 9R?
Well, if you go off the 850 Polaris to the 9R, it's a whole new sled.
Yeah.
Like that was my first swap, right?
To your point of power making a difference. I mean, that was really apparent when you jumped from the Polaris 850 to the 9R.
Yeah.
Easy to see. So.
Well, and I felt more confident on the 9R just because of the power. I feel like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, more playful, more fun.
Throttle response. Everything.
And that one is super snappy on the bottom end. I'd say you know that one probably wins out against the Catalyst if you're talking like low end initial power. I mean, it hits hard, fast, and I wouldn't say it goes forever like you see on the top end like the 858, but then again, I don't know. It just depends on how you ride. So,
well, mountain riders, technical riders, most of their stuff is bottom to mid.
Yeah.
And that's why the 900 came out in the first place, like even before the 9R. Like the Carl Cycle 900 kit, like it just made the 850 a weapon. Like just it cleaned up that bottom end, it gave it the punch, it made it. So when you're riding, you're a mountain rider and you're in that zone, and you know we're joking about it like you can pay a therapist or you can buy a snowmobile.
Right.
When you're in that mental state and there's nothing else going on in your head and you're just riding and you're seeing something and you're squeezing the throttle, the sooner the sled does what you're inputting, the better rider you are.
For sure.
And so if there's hesitation here, now all of a sudden you have to factor that in mentally. You're like, okay, I'm going to do this, so I better start this process now. But on the Polaris, on that 9R, it's just, and you can shoot around stuff, slingshot, carry momentum, stand them up, whip them around like.
It is a fun sled.
But if you're talking the strictly the NA 850 range sleds, I mean, that Cat definitely outdid it, I think. Easy.
Yeah. Good job to those guys. That is a powerful package. Response we covered. Ergonomics, handlebars, controls, running boards.
Cat's plastic running boards. Got to go. It's not bad if it's cold outside and you don't get any of that heat, residual. But I seen you trying to kick some ice one time.
I felt like I was on a 97
XLT
something with aluminum running boards with no holes. And like, what is this ice buildup? It's 2025.
No, and then I rode it out down the trail, and I had to stop and kick that. My left foot kept.
But you don't want to kick too hard because you can go right through it.
No. And it hurts actually because it builds up on the inside, so you feel like you're on this weird off camber. Like if you're going to hit a bump, you're going to break an ankle. I don't love it. So
not a fan. I noticed on the tunnel on the Catalyst,
no snow.
It had a lot less snow. Had hardly zero snow in the.
I've got pictures.
Polaris too.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I'm sure you document that stuff.
Yeah. But no, there is no snow on them cats at all in the tunnel.
Yeah, so. they don't carry much.
The bars. I've never been a fan of Polaris bars. Clear back, when we were doing back in 2012.
They're wide. We measured them one year. They're wide, and I think that when you're wide and then all of a sudden the sled is tipped downhill, now you're reaching farther, and when you reach farther, you're moving your body mass farther. They're wide, and then you can't move the controls in far enough to where you can one finger the brake the way you want it to. Yeah. For me, anyway.
Yeah.
Like, so just that Pro Taper handlebar setup, I'm not a huge fan of.
Yeah.
And that's been around. Shoot, that's been around for 2011.
Yeah.
It's time to find something, maybe a little better ergonomic feel with that.
And we were going to change bars out, maybe one ride this year and just put some narrows on, see if that changed.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
Be fun to do.
Skidoo's bars, I mean, everything feels good. Like the narrower grips, I like that. Their throttle feels good.
Other than the steering.
Yeah, and man, the lay down steering, like when you're blitzing moguls, that's probably why the Skidoo is better, because that's a race sled up. Lay down steering is a race sled setup, and it conforms to that low. Like you got to get down and you got to be ready to absorb and move.
Less feedback,
and that lay down steering helps you with that. I like that. The running boards. Who's your top running board?
Polaris.
Polaris boards for me.
Yeah, and I didn't really. Maybe I didn't pay attention to the Polaris and Skidoo. I just remember the cat being icy.
If you don't notice it, then it's not a problem, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Like I think we all identified the cat was the problem there.
Yeah.
Like that had an issue.
Yeah.
Here's one that the pull rope between the Polaris and the cat. That pull rope on the Polaris is so easy to grab down here versus here. Just that angle.
Oh, I thought you were going to.
I mean, the Skidoo is definitely better with
the pull.
No.
Yeah, it's easy to get to. And they probably did that to offset how hard it is to pull.
But I mean, that was easy. Just the angle of your arm.
Yeah, but
I'd prefer the power shot all day long. But
but what you just mentioned, the position of where the pull rope is for harder to pull. The cat one is farther away from the motor, which means you've got to move back to be able to pull it more. So you have a little bit shorter throw. Taylor Peck's going to give me crap on Instagram for this, but and then just pulling the motor and turning that thing over. Like the Cat 858 is a harder pull.
Yeah.
Like I'll keep saying that. I got issues here. I don't think it affects what you're hearing. It just affects what I'm hearing. But yeah, I'll keep saying that. Like the Cat 858 is a harder pull. It's more compression.
But then again, that's just a statement of fact. I mean, it just is harder to pull. Is it going to keep you from buying one? Like, nobody's going to care. No. It's just, it's not that big of a deal. But
we're just talking controls, just little things, right?
Yeah, little things.
But how big of a selling point is Skidoo shot?
That's pretty awesome.
I've been thinking about shot the whole time.
Because the older he gets, the easier it is for him.
Yeah, there'll be a time when that's the only sled I can ride. Oh, it doesn't have shot. Can't ride it. Sorry.
No, that is huge. Especially when you're tired at the end of the day and you're upside down and you don't want to pull the rope.
That's true.
Well, and how many pulls does it take to start the Skidoo? How many pulls does it take to start the Polaris? How many pulls does it take to start the Cat?
1.
It was pretty much 1.
When
there
warm,
were a couple that we had to pull 2.
In the morning, the Polaris is minimum 2, sometimes 4 when it's cold.
Yeah.
The Cat
is 2 at least in the morning.
2 at least.
Yeah. Which is
Skidoo will start on first pull.
Yeah.
If you leave that thing sitting all summer, it'll start on the first pull.
With the shot?
No.
Shot to death by then with the pull rope.
That's true.
Yeah, it doesn't really work that way. But yeah, the Skidoo will start on the first pull. The vast majority of the time. Polaris will sometimes start on the first pull. Cat, does it ever?
Yeah.
Sometimes, yeah.
All the time, Ryan. Come on.
I catch crap for that one too.
So we've talked about compared to a 9R I think, I would say out of the three 850s, I'm going to rank them Cat at the top, then Skidoo power delivery wise and handle and feel, and then Polaris 850 at the bottom. But I'm taking a 9R power feel over all three.
Over all three.
Anybody different than that?
No.
If we're talking power, I'm agreeing with you on that one.
Okay, how do these compare to? And this is really going to be just Cat or Skidoo and Polaris. How do these compare to their turbo counterparts?
Just the 850 versus a turbo.
Yep. Polaris 850 versus
not
Patriot
like
Boost.
Expert NA or anything like that. 850.
Yeah. Just the Skidoo 850 NA versus Turbo R, and the Polaris 850 NA versus Patriot Boost.
I'm not sure, but have any of you guys seen Cardi B yet to do that comparison?
The one
I heard she's in the shop.
I think she's been in Ryan's shop the whole time.
Yep. You guys came and took what you took. And Cardi B just sat there. I'm
Cardi
like,
B wasn't
okay,
there. I mean,
here we go.
We're waiting for more snow for her.
I guess I did tell you don't take Cardi B.
yeah, you did. Yeah, I'm taking Cardi B Saturday. Don't take it.
You took the Pro.
So I took the Pro.
Yeah.
Compared to a turbo, I feel like they're two different animals, honestly. If we're comparing the 850s to that turbo, two different total sleds.
Yeah. The hard part is as soon as you add that turbo factor into it, and maybe it's because we've mostly been on like an Expert Turbo R, like I all of a sudden start gravitating back to the Skidoo. So as much as I
over the Polaris turbo,
yeah, as much as I like the Polaris and I like predictability and everything else, I just if we're talking power and stuff, I don't know. I don't know if that power element, we kind of talked about that while we were up on the hill. Like we all kind of struggled a little bit with that Summit X, and I think we kept thinking like, gosh, if we just had a little more power, maybe the turbo version is not as big a deal. But it's just weird. As soon as we transfer over into that turbo section, I definitely think Skidoo has an edge on that turbo market over the Polaris, and I think some of it's the weight distribution, some of it's just the initial response and power delivery. I mean, the Skidoo just. I never felt, and maybe that's good and bad, depending on your riding style. I never felt like the Skidoo, or I guess on the Polaris, I never felt like I'd be surprised by the power. Where the Skidoo, if like you really have to pay attention, because if you grab a handful, like it hits so hard and so fast that like it'll send you back seat really quick. And granted, the Polaris hits hard, but we've always talked about how on the bottom end it's just a little bit different. That's why we talk about the 9R response on the bottom end and stuff. So they're just a little bit different, but that's kind of how I feel about the turbo power.
I feel like we've been talking about the F-150 versus the Ram 1500 versus the Chevy, the Silverado 1500, and then you throw a turbo into the mix. Now we're into a Ford Super Duty 6.7 high output diesel.
Yeah,
right.
Not even the same.
You can drive. Yeah. You can drive to Salt Lake in the same truck and do the same thing, but man, when you want power to do work and pull a gooseneck and just get stuff done,
then you need the Duramax.
The turbo. No,
start
like
Ford
legit,
power over
like
here,
legit
Chevy,
power.
whatever over there.
Yeah, how'd that work out? Ford's on that side.
GM's on that side.
No, you're right. It's a different category. I would be fine. I would be happy. I would be a snowmobiler for life. I would just go have fun on an 850 NA, no problem. But if I'm going in and buying one, the money's going to be a factor. Because like you mentioned earlier, like, yeah, you can go pick up an 850 NA right now for pretty cheap, brand new.
Yeah.
And you're going to be $7, $8, $9,000 more for a turbo right now versus the deals you can get on a carryover NA.
Carryover.
Yeah.
So that's going to be something to consider. But man, when you're on the mountain and the more elevation you gain, the more you get out of these turbos.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's a tough sell.
I would say, as a consumer, if I was going to buy one sled, I would probably, and I didn't have access to, to these snowmobiles that we have, I would probably have, tried to save the money and buy a turbo if I was going to have one sled. So.
Which one?
Probably Skidoo. I've been on the free ride a lot and the Polaris Pro Boost and the free ride turbo and I don't know, like Justin said, there's just something about that Skidoo turbo and the feeling that you get out of them. They just work good.
I agree with both of you. I spent a lot of time on the Polaris turbo last year for about a week. Me and Neeson, he was home, and we went quite a bit. He took my Arctic Cat and I was on that turbo. I think turbo, the more you ride it, the more you get used to it, the more you like it. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense? I really like that turbo Polaris last year. Mm-hmm. But I love the Skidoo turbo also, but I think a turbo is different than the NA. I think the more you spend on the turbo, the more you fall in love with it, and you don't want the other one. Versus an NA, you can spend a day on it and still go back to the other one and still like all three of them. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Is that confusing?
You confused me.
I confused you.
Well, and the turbos have been they've been a process in development. Like Skidoo came out early release 2020, Polaris came out in 2022. And to be honest with you, I think if they weren't trying to outdo each other, they both probably would have waited a little bit. But the Skidoo package was pretty dialed coming out. I was talking to Lenny Reed up at Dynamite Diesel a couple days ago. He called after listening to a different podcast, and we chatted for a while. And he has a 9R that he loves, and then he has a Skidoo Turbo. I think he said it was a Gen 4 that he's done a lot of stuff too, and so it's modified and it's putting out a ton of power. But he's having a hard time going from a turbo day on a Skidoo to a 9R day on a Polaris, and so he went and bought a 2022 Patriot Boost, and I was like, man, like the 22 was not great. The 23 was better. The 24 was great. The 25 is awesome.
We've talked about that.
They have gotten better and better over the years, and told him, take that 2022 to Kurt Friede up at Kurt's Polaris. And that was the podcast he was talking about, and he'll get that thing dialed. But they've gotten better and better over the years. Yeah. And that's going to lead to some of the questions we're going to ask in the next episode. We're going to talk a little more about this stuff, but that'll do it for this episode. So we have part 1 that came out already. That's just the weight discussion. We have the overall weight. We have the front bumper weight, rear bumper weight. We talked about different elements of that. This part 2 episode that we're just wrapping up here talked about ride tests, handling and feel, performance. All of that. Part 3 that's coming up here soon is going to be questions, just kind of a Q&A session, and we're going to be all over the place on topics, talking about these sleds, this class, 9R, everything that stacks up. And we asked on social media, on Instagram and Facebook, what do you guys, what you guys as just general snowmobile consumers that go in and throw down your own hard-earned money on the counter every fall, buy these snowmobiles. What do you want to know? What questions do you want to ask? So we'll get into that in the next episode. If you're listening to this on the YouTube channel, please hit subscribe. That helps us out a lot. We're going to be bringing these episodes out all year now. We're going to go through the summer. And if you guys subscribe to that, it helps us out a bunch. If you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, same thing, hit that subscribe button, please. We appreciate the support. We appreciate you listening to this. Even if you don't agree, you don't like us, I think we're irrelevant. There's a lot of you out there. I don't care. You're listening. Thank you. But no, I really
still
do.
Following.
I do really appreciate you guys taking time to listen to this. We're just one small slice of the pie of information that's out there available. But I appreciate that. Go to SnoWest.com, check out the magazine, check out our line of merch, and make sure that you tune back in here in a little bit for part 3 of this 850 NA test.